All right, folks, topic of discussion for today is going to be Foxbody front ends and how you can check your front end out at home and see what type of condition it's in. As these cars get older, 79 being 43 years old, 93 being 29 years old, chances are these knuckles and joints are starting to get pretty tired in your car. Now, I will say that these Foxes are known for having a fairly stout front end. Not very often did you see a Foxbody going in for a new set of front end ball joints, depending on the conditions and the roads that they were driven on. And I'm willing to bet that probably 80% or more of the Foxbodies still on the road today are still rocking the OEM ball joints. Okay, now what usually happens with them is the boot itself will rot or crack or rip, and that in turn lets dust, debris, water, whatever in the joint, and they dry up and go to hell on you. The other side of this is your tie rod ends and steering rack. Steering racks were a bit of a weak point. It's a good rack, don't get me wrong, but they are known for leaking, and a lot of Foxbodies, I'd say well over 80% of them that are out there still to this day, are probably dealing with a leaky rack. Now, I'm going to show you how to check these knuckles and joints, specifically ball joints and tie rod ends, in the old school manner that I was taught. Like I say, this is the way that I was taught years ago. To the best of my knowledge, it's still used in the mechanics industry today, and this is a good way that you can check your ball joints and tie rod ends out on your driveway or in your garage at home. So here's a quick look from underneath the car. Before we get to checking anything, I just wanted to give you an idea what we're going to be looking at here. That blue boot right there, that is your ball joint boot. Now, you want to maybe get underneath your car in some way, shape, or form and check the condition of that boot on a fairly regular basis. I would say probably once a year, twice a year, something to that effect. Because if that boot's ripped, it won't take very long for your ball joint to go, especially if you drive your car in various weather conditions. The other joint we're going to be checking here is your tie rod end, where your tie rod bolts into your spindle. We're going to be checking that as well. Okay, so first things first, we're going to jack the car up. Now we want to get it just so the tires are about, I don't know, maybe 2 inches off the ground. In this case, hoist, but you don't need a hoist to be doing this. You can do this right on the ground. Right about there. So now we're just gonna get the front end supported on some jack stands. All right, so to test your ball joint and your tie rod end, first things first, we're gonna test our ball joint. And what you're gonna need is a big bar, or in this case, I've got a piece of galvanized fence post that I've had forever, used for everything, including a piece of cheater pipe. And what you want to do is you want to get this underneath your tire, maybe about half, 3/4 of the way underneath your tire. And what you want to do is you want to lift up on it, and what you're feeling for is a bit of a knock from the tire and wheel. Essentially, the whole spindle will move. So you just kind of lift up and see if there's any play. Now, an over-exaggerated idea of what's going on here is your tire will essentially, tire and wheel assembly will move. The spindle and everything will move, because what's going on is that ball joint is moving inside of that spindle. It's like knocking around. So that's what you're feeling for. Essentially, it'll feel like a clunk every time you lift up. Another good thing to do is, this is in both cases for checking the ball joint and the tie rod end, you can have a buddy or whatever, get under there with a flashlight and look at that ball joint as you're lifting up on this pipe or bar, whatever you got, and see what goes on. You'll see that ball joint move if it's bad. Now, moving on to your tie rod end, what you want to do is essentially pull and push, side to side. First and foremost, make sure that your steering wheel is locked, which now mine is. Now, you might be able to see that it seems like there's a little bit of a play in there. What that is that's my steering wheel moving back and forth. But if I had a bad tie rod end, again, in the same fashion that the ball joint would clunk, you would feel that tie rod end go clunk, clunk, clunk. Same deal. That tie rod end will move inside of that spindle and just kind of knock around, and it'll give you like a clunk almost when you go back and forth with the wheel. All right, well, that's pretty much going to tie this one up. Now, one thing I left out is don't underestimate the power of a good old-fashioned visual check. Get underneath your car when you got some time, safely, and look it over. Get a light, have a look at things, make sure everything looks to be in its place, tight, ready to go, so you don't run into a disastrous situation. These front end issues, for example, if you lose a tie rod end or a ball joint on the freeway, it's pretty much guaranteed to be game over. You do not want that happening to you. So just be aware of these things, check them over. We love driving these cars, we love driving them spiritedly, and we like making them go fast. Don't underestimate the safety aspects of these Fox bodies, okay? Check them over. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. If you think this might help one of your friends or family that's dealing with some front end issues, please send it along. That's why I do these things. I like helping out the community. So thanks for tagging along, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye for now.